Hello everybody, and welcome to another Flaming Dice Reviews video. My name is Matt, and today we're going to be taking a look at Expedition, the role-playing card game. A complete role-playing game package in a deck of cards, and all you need to play is said deck, a phone, and a d20. We're going to take a look at gameplay, and then I will meet you back here for my final thoughts as always. I will see you soon. Now let's take a look at what comes inside of Expedition the game. We're going to start off with the enemy cards. Now they are divided into 4 different types. We have Fae, Undead, Beast, and Bandits. And individually each deck of cards is divided into Tier 1, 2, 3, and 4 enemies so that you can scale difficulty. Now the game has a free app for Android and a free web-based app, and I believe it's under development for iOS. So if you do one of the guided adventures in the app, it'll tell you which enemies to draw and what tier they are, and that's how you base the difficulty of the encounter. You also have a deck of adventurer cards, and I'm going to show you how incredibly simple character creation is in just a moment. You also have cheat sheets, just to give you an idea of what you're doing. You have a loot deck, and the loot is single-use items that will help you in your adventure. And then you have a huge stack of ability cards. And these are how you actually perform actions in the game. And these cards are incredibly simple and easy to follow and very detailed, and we're going to take a look at those as well. Well, just like you would in any other role-playing game, the first thing we're going to start with is character creation. And it's not so much creation as setup, because Expedition is all about making role-playing games accessible, especially to new players. So you can see here these characters that they have pre-made for you, and they have the Hungry Halfling, the Ambitious Noble, the Deluded Mage. We're going to go with the Wild Hunter. And this is how hard setup is. You have the Wild Hunter. You simply take the card, put a life counter marker of some sort on the maximum health, and then you draw the type of cards that it lists here. In this case of the Wild Hunter, they get 5 ranged cards or abilities and 3 magic abilities. Yeah, so you would simply draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ranged, and 1, 2, 3 magic abilities. You shuffle these up for your encounters, and you are ready to play the game. It's really that easy. The next thing that we're going to look at is how you actually play the game. Now the app covers how to play, but we're just going to give you a brief rundown right here. So in this case we're the Wild Hunter, and we have our deck. Now our deck of ability cards, if you remember, is made up of ranged and magic, as denoted by the starting abilities listed on the Wild Hunter card. And during a round of combat, players are going to draw 3 cards from their deck. They're not going to look at them until they start the timer on the app. So you have your cards, and then you start the timer on the app. And we're going to look at that in just a moment. Once the timer is started, players flip over their cards, choose one, lay it down, put the others down, and put their finger on the app. Once everybody has their finger on the app, because the app supports multi-touch, which you can turn off if you prefer, then the timer stops and the game calculates the encounter based on the amount of time that players chose to select their cards. So it's very good to be familiar with your abilities before you start the encounter. So now let's take a look at ability cards and an example round. So I've already drawn or selected the card that I wanted. I've checked in with the app, and now it's time to activate my abilities. And again, this is all walked through on the app. But in this case, I have selected Rapid Fire, and Rapid Fire, if we take a look at it, It tells you what a success roll is. So in this case, you're successful on an 8 or higher. It tells you how many targets there are, and some of them will say 1, some of them will say self, some of them will say all adventurers or all enemies. So it gives you exactly, or it tells you exactly who it targets. And then it tells you what happens on a success, what happens on a critical hit, and what happens on a critical miss. So in this case, I'm playing rapid fire, and I rolled a 5. So I miss. However, had I rolled something like a 16, I would deal 2 damage and play an ability from my hand. Now your hand is the cards that weren't selected. If you recall, we drew 3 and we chose one. So now that I have a success, I deal 2 damage to an enemy, I move their health counter, and then I would get to play an ability from my hand. So in this case, I would play knock, and I would get to roll again. I rolled a 12. So it is a success. It targets myself. I can regain 2 health and draw an extra ability next round. So now let's take a look at the app. And in this example, we're going to do one of the featured quests, which pretty much walks you through everything. And now there's two featured quests at this time, and we're going to choose the quest, or excuse me, Oust Albanus quest. And now the app is going to tell you everything that you need to do as far as characters creation. And at the beginning we skipped it, but it asks you how many people are playing, how many adventurers there are. And now we're going to get to the actual encounter. And up here you have your text, and you can either delegate one person to read the text, or you can pass your phone around. But down at the bottom it gives us a choice. In this scenario, the villagers are trying to regain their stolen cheese, and you can help the villagers or you can attack the villagers. And just for the purposes of this video, let's attack the villagers. Now it's going to give you a little bit more text, and whenever you're ready, you just click next. Now the game is, or the app is telling you which bad guys that you're about to fight, or which enemies. And in this case, I already have them ready to go. It's the veteran, which is a tier 2 bandit, and an archer, which is a tier 1 bandit. Once we're ready to go, we click next. Now this is just a tutorial app, and this is just telling you a little bit of what to do, keep you on track. And now it's telling you to prepare for combat. And we're going to start the timer. Now that we have the timer started, I'm going to choose a card from my hand, and I'm ready to go. Did you notice the numbers that were changing on the app? Well, the longer players take to make a selection, the more damage the bad guys are going to do to you. So in this case, it tells us to resolve, or in this step, the app is telling us to resolve my action. So I am playing long shot, and I roll a d20. On an 11 or higher, I deal damage. I rolled a 5, so I do not deal damage. But it says if you roll an 11, or if you roll less than an 11, then I take 2 damage. So this is a dangerous card to play, but I chose to roll the die, and I lost. So in this case, I would simply take 2 damage on my character sheet. So I went from 12 to 10. And I would click next. Now it's asking how many bad guys are left. So if you kill a bad guy, let's say that we managed to kill the archer, which the only person I managed to kill was myself. But the tier sum would now go down, and the tier sum is 2. And we would click next. And it tells us all adventurers take 3 damage. So I would take 3 more. And it asks you how many adventurers are left. So in this case, let's say no one had died. We would click next, and it would start over. So the game walks you through it. Now once the encounter is over, it gives you more text, and you have more choices to make. And you can even play the game where there's no story. You can make up your entire world, and you can just use the bunch of enemy cards to play the game, but you can tell the story, you can let the adventurers make choices, so this is highly, highly customizable. Let's take a quick look at what happens when an encounter ends. So in this case, I have lowered the tier sum down to 0, and you see it popped up that I now have the option to end the encounter in victory. So I click that. We're going to close this tutorial. Now it tells us exactly what to do. All adventurers heal to full health. Draw loot for your party. So I get to draw a tier 1 loot. I actually get to draw 3. And look at what I got. So for example, Blackbriar Ale is a single use that allows one target to regain 4 health, or all adventurers to regain 1 health, or magical loot, +6 to your next role-playing roll, or 2 targets take 2 music damage. And the loot, just like the enemy, are divided into tiers. You have tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, and players, as they advance, also sometimes have the option to draw new ability cards. So that's sort of like leveling up in the game. So again, this game is just incredibly easy to play. It's a lot of fun. The app is incredibly intuitive, and it really grooms people and gets them ready for more advanced role-playing games. Or if you're not interested in advancing past this, this is a fantastic game with just endless possibilities on its own. Welcome back, everybody. Now that we've seen how Expedition plays and taken a look at the game, let's talk about my final thoughts. Well, I really enjoyed Expedition. I'm going to play it again at some point. I know that for sure. It's such a great little gateway role-playing game. If you don't have a group of friends who's familiar with Dungeons and Dragons or Star Wars or Firefly or whatever role-playing, or Pathfinder, whatever role-playing system that you're using, this is such a great way to teach them role-playing without intimidating them out of the gate. A lot of people, whenever you sit down for a D&D campaign and you have to sit there for 2 hours and make a character sheet or fill out a character sheet just to create a character, that's very intimidating to new role players. So this is just so much easier. You choose your character, you put a life counter on it, you choose the correct cards from the appropriate decks, and you're ready to go. The game scales, so if you don't know what you're doing, or if you're playing with people who don't know what they're doing, you can do one of the completely guided adventures through the app, and the game takes care of everything. It has pop-ups that tell you what to do and when to do it. The cards are very easy to understand. We actually literally had no questions. I think that was a first in any game ever, and for it to be in a role-playing game, that's absolutely ridiculous. So that just speaks to how easy this game is to learn and to teach. Now, some people might be put off by the fact that you have to use an app to play the game. I initially was very skeptical, because I'm always skeptical anytime that technology is introduced into traditional tabletop role-playing. However, I'm here to tell you that this is one of the better and probably one of the best implementations of technology into tabletop gaming. It was so easy. The app is just so incredibly intuitive. It has all of these choices. It walks you through everything. It has, like I said, the pop-up tutorial to tell you exactly what to do. It lets you choose how much you want to rely on the app. You can either do a completely guided story, or you can do a sort of middle of the road that gives you some tips and pointers on role playing, or you can just create your own world and your own campaign and use the app strictly for combat. And that's incredibly impressive. It really is. And you can see that it's got just a ton of room for expansion and improvements. It really is an exciting system. All you need is some more cards. For that matter, you could make your own enemies. The game even encourages that, to create your own encounters and write them down in the same fashion or in the same format that the game has. And you can really, really just take the game to whole new levels. And I'm sure the creators are going to do that as well. So if you have somebody that you want to teach role-playing to, somebody that's not familiar, this is such a great way to teach it to them. I really had a lot of fun with it, and I highly recommend it. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and visit the website at www.flamingdicereviews.com or at www.facebook.com/flamingdicereviews. I hope to see you there soon. Bye-bye.